It is 0200 a.m., and the blue light of your laptop is the only thing keeping the room from going dark. You just hit send on your 50th application this week. You meet every requirement. You've tailored every keyword. But deep down, there is this cold, sinking feeling that the person on the other end doesn't actually exist. And the terrifying reality is, you are probably right. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are 7.7 million jobs available across the United States. It sounds like a gold rush, a worker's paradise. Yet, behind those headlines, 81% of hiring managers admit to a dirty secret. They are posting fake jobs. On LinkedIn alone, 1.7 million ghost jobs are floating in the ether, acting as digital monuments to a role that will never be filled. We are told the market is desperate for us, but the math doesn't add up. If companies are starving for talent, why is the easy apply button leading into a black hole? To understand why your career feels like it's being haunted, we have to look back at how this weapon was built. Because before it was an algorithm, it was barbed wire and gunpowder. This is the history of the ghost job. This isn't a new glitch in the matrix. It's a blueprint refined over 100 years. Take Andrew Carnegie. History remembers him as the great philanthropist, but in the late 19th century, he was an industrialist with a problem. Steel prices were falling, and his workers were getting organized. He needed a way to break their spirit without saying a word. Carnegie's chairman, Henry Frick, didn't just build Fort Frick, a 12-foot fence with sniper towers, to lock out striking workers. He flooded local newspapers with job ads promising high wages and steady work. These were the original ghost jobs. They didn't exist to hire people, they existed to create the illusion of an infinite labor supply, making the men inside the mill feel like they were nothing more than replaceable cogs. When the smoke cleared from the Homestead strike, Carnegie had slashed wages and eliminated 500 jobs. He realized that a job ad is more than a recruitment tool. It is a psychological lever. It's a way to tell your employees, look at the line out the door. You're lucky to be here. That tactic didn't die in the 1890s. It just moved from the newspaper to the newsfeed. Transitioning to the modern era, the motive shifted from breaking unions to checking boxes. The first pillar of the modern ghost job is what I call the compliance mirage. Following the civil rights era, legislation required companies to prove they weren't discriminating. They had to show they were equal opportunity employers. On paper, it was progress. In practice, for many firms, it became a game of paper shuffling and performative searching. Think about John Cornathan in 1966. He answered an ad for an electrician, only to be told the application was too complicated to fill out. A week later, that same ad was back in the paper. The company wasn't looking for an electrician, they were looking for a trail of evidence to show the government they were trying to hire, while maintaining a segregated shop floor. They used the hope of workers as a shield against the law. The second pillar is market testing. By the 1980s, the Friedman Doctrine, the idea that a corporation's only duty is to shareholders, became the North Star. Companies started using anonymous blind ads. They weren't hiring, they were taking the temperature of the room. They wanted to see if they could replace an expensive internal veteran with a cheaper external desperate soul without the veteran ever knowing. This leads us to the third pillar, the digital monopoly. When platforms like Monster and LinkedIn arrived, the cost of a job ad plummeted. In 2003, a 60-day ad on Monster cost $35. A print ad in the New York Times cost over $500. When it became cheap to lie, corporations started lying at scale. They stopped looking for a person and started building a talent pool, a polite term for a database of people they might call in 3 years. The fourth pillar is the most sinister, data harvesting. In the United States, your personal data is a commodity. Unlike the European Union, which has strict protections, U.S. law often defaults to whatever makes the most money. When you click Agree on a job portal, you aren't just applying for a job, you are handing over your social security number, your salary history, and your healthcare data to be packaged and sold. Journalist Bob Sullivan found that companies like Equifax have built massive private databases fueled by data from 75% of Fortune 500 companies. Every time you apply for a ghost job at a major tech firm or a retail giant, you are feeding a system that tracks your tenure, your debt, and your value. You are the product, and the job is just the bait to get you on the hook. The fifth pillar is quota padding. Internal corporate politics often dictate that a manager must interview 3 external candidates before hiring their friend's nephew. This is why you get called for an interview, spend 2 hours prepping, and put on your only suit, only to find out the position was filled before you even walked in. You were a prop in a corporate play, there to satisfy a policy, not a need. Finally, we have the morale weapon. This is the one that really hurts. Studies show that 60% of companies post ghost jobs specifically to trick their current overworked staff into thinking help is on the way. They tell the exhausted team, "We're looking for a new manager," while they have zero intention of signing a paycheck. It keeps the staff running on the treadmill just a little bit longer. Simultaneously, it serves as a warning. By keeping now hiring signs up perpetually, a company reminds its workers that they are replaceable. It's a low-frequency hum of insecurity designed to boost productivity. If you're scared of the 500 people applying for your job, you won't ask for a raise. You'll just work through your lunch break and stay quiet. It's a cycle of exploitation that turns human ambition into a corporate asset. We see the numbers on the screen, the 105,000 cases of employment fraud reported last year, but we rarely see the faces behind them. This isn't just an economic shift, it's a moral bankruptcy. To see how this plays out in the real world, we have to look at the stories that don't make the quarterly reports. Transitioning to a story that hits closer to home. Let's look at a case study of a young professional we'll call Sarah. She's 26, living in a city where rent takes 50% of her paycheck. She has a master's degree and a resume that looks like a work of art. For 6 months, Sarah has been the perfect candidate for 300 different ghost jobs. She's reached the final round of interviews 4 times, only for the roles to be put on hold indefinitely. Sarah starts to doubt her own reality. She wonders if her degree is worthless, if her personality is the problem, if she's somehow failing at the basic task of being an adult. This is the Sarah effect. It's the slow erosion of self-worth that happens when you are ghosted by an algorithm. But Sarah isn't the problem. The system is just using her to look thriving for its investors. While Sarah struggles, the company she applied to is reporting record growth and aggressive hiring plans to its shareholders. They point to the thousands of applications they receive as proof of their brand's strength. They are using Sarah's desperation to pump their stock price, while Sarah is wondering how she's going to buy groceries next week. It's a parasitic relationship disguised as a career opportunity. Then there are the scammers who live in the shadows of these ghost jobs. Because LinkedIn makes it so easy to post fake roles, scammers are now impersonating real companies to steal money from new hires for equipment fees. A friend of mine in Austin had to delete his entire company profile because scammers were using his name to prey on people who just wanted a chance to work. The progression is complete. From a fake ad in 1892 to a digital identity theft in 2026. The ghost job has evolved into a multi-headed hydra of corporate leverage and criminal fraud. It leaves the worker isolated, exhausted, and fundamentally broken. But as we reach the end of this story, we have to ask ourselves, how much longer can a society function when its most basic promise, work for pay, is a lie? Transitioning to the final truth. I'm supposed to give you 3 tips here. I'm supposed to tell you to network more or optimize your LinkedIn profile. But I value your intelligence too much for that. Telling you to read the job listing carefully to avoid a ghost job is like telling someone to read the fine print on a lottery ticket. The house has already rigged the game. It's frustrating. I see the comments on this channel, hundreds every day, from single mothers, graduates with honors, and people who just want to provide for their families. They ask, why does nobody want me? It breaks my heart because the answer isn't that they aren't wanted. It's that they are being used as data points in a game they didn't agree to play. We are living in a moment of profound moral bankruptcy. When 70% of hiring managers believe it is morally acceptable to post fake jobs to scare their employees, we have lost the plot. We have traded human dignity for productivity upticks and shareholder value. And as a young person, it's easy to let that fire inside you go out, to just accept that this is the way the world works. But I refuse to stop talking about it. I'll keep making these videos until they land in front of the people who can actually change the laws. We need job platforms that are held accountable. We need data protections that treat our lives as more than just entries in an Equifax database. We need to stop tearing each other apart and start looking at the people pulling the strings. If you're out there right now, staring at a screen at 02:00 a.m., know that you aren't crazy. You aren't a failure. You are just trying to survive in a haunted market. If this resonated with you, share your story in the comments. Let's make the invisible visible. And if you want to understand the platform that started all this, watch the video on the screen now about the dark side of LinkedIn. Until next time, bye bye.